They told us it was just a comet, a harmless rock, another frozen wanderer drifting through the dark. But buried in their own data is a pattern that was never meant to be seen, a motion that shouldn't exist, a force that ignores the sun, and a trajectory so precise it whispers intent. As 3I Atlas closes the final distance to Earth, the anomalies are accelerating, and the silence around it is growing louder. Tonight, you're about to hear the version of this story that was never meant to leave the shadows. Today, we dive into the object they called ordinary, the physics they labeled coincidence, and the growing fear that something is not simply passing through our solar system, but moving with purpose. 18 days. That's all the time left before 3I Atlas becomes closer to Earth than it has ever been in recorded history. Closer than it was when our most powerful instruments first captured the image that defined it as harmless. This time, every major observatory on the planet is locked onto it, watching, measuring, quietly changing their calculations. Because whatever 3I Atlas truly is, it is no longer behaving like anything we understand. We were told its activity should be fading. Objects like this weaken as they retreat from the sun. Heat vanishes. Outgassing slows. The coma dims. That is the rule. That is the comfort of physics. And 3I Atlas shattered that comfort. It stayed bright, it stayed violent, and then it revealed the feature that changed everything. An anti-tail. Not trailing behind it like every comet ever recorded, but pointing straight at the sun. A blade of light more than 1,000,000 kilometers long, forcing itself upstream into a solar wind moving hundreds of kilometers per second. By every known law of physics, that structure should be shredded instantly, reduced to dust in moments. Instead, it remains sharp, stable, persistent, as if something is pushing it forward rather than tearing it backward. To grasp how impossible this is, imagine sprinting headfirst into a hurricane that moves faster than a jet fighter and never slowing down. That is what this anti-tail is doing endlessly, without collapsing. For that to happen, the density of the material must be at least 1,000,000 times greater than the surrounding space. And that density has a cost. Mass loss. Not a gentle leak, but violent consumption. Hundreds of tons per second being ripped from the object and hurled into space. Over weeks, that becomes billions of tons of matter erased into nothing. Conservative estimates say nearly 10% of the object's minimum mass has already vanished, and yet 3I Atlas remains unbroken. Any natural comet under that stress should have fragmented, shattered, died. This one didn't, which leaves only two possibilities. Our physics is wrong, or our assumptions are. The contradictions deepen when we examine its motion. Natural comets wobble. Uneven jets push them unpredictably. Their paths twitch through space. But for months, 3I Atlas moved like a silent projectile. No measurable thrust, no erratic deviation, a rigid, unwavering trajectory, as if it were sliding along invisible rails. Then, at the exact moment it vanished behind the glare of the sun, everything changed. A faint exhilaration appeared, real, measurable, unsettling. To produce that shift naturally would require more than 10% of the object's remaining mass to be expelled almost instantly, at speeds that still don't match the form of its anti-tail. The equations collapse. The energy budget breaks. The numbers refuse to reconcile. Unless the exhaust isn't thermal.
Chemical propulsion expels matter more than 10 times faster than natural cometary gas. Ion propulsion accelerates particles thousands of times faster still. Under those conditions, the same acceleration would require only a fraction of the mass loss being observed. Suddenly, the math works. Suddenly, the behavior aligns. And suddenly, the explanation becomes one that no official institution is willing to speak aloud. The anti-tale itself delivers another impossible detail. 3I Atlas rotates roughly every 16 hours. If its jets were natural, they would pulse, fan out, break into sweeping arcs as the surface turned. We would see interruptions, a heartbeat. We see none. The jet remains razor straight, perfectly collimated, continuous, as if the source is not rotating at all. Yet, the object is rotating. Then the brightness began to oscillate by 10 to 20% in perfect sync with that rotation. We are told the brightness should be dominated by the coma, gas that does not rotate with the nucleus. If that were true, rotation would change almost nothing, but it changes everything. The coma is being dragged, forced, moved as if something inside the object is controlling it. And this is where the story turns personal. 3 weeks ago, an anonymous message appeared on a private astrophysics forum. No username, no affiliation, just one sentence. The trust data was flagged, and we were told never to speak about it again. Minutes later, the account vanished.
According to the leaked post, the internal calculations did not match the public explanation. The acceleration was too clean, too stable, too sustained. One engineer allegedly tried to push the discrepancy up the chain. They were removed from the project within 48 hours. No announcement, no clarification, just silence. If this were merely a strange comet, space agencies would be celebrating it. Press conferences, wall-to-wall analysis, public fascination. Instead, the tone shifted. Statements grew cautious. Explanations became sterile, as if curiosity itself had become a liability. And then, Jupiter entered the story. Not by accident, not by chance. 3I Atlas is aimed toward one of the most mathematically valuable locations in the entire solar system, the Hill radius. The invisible boundary where a planet's gravity overpowers the sun. A gravitational harbor, a natural capture zone, a place where objects can be parked and held. The projected approach distance of 3I Atlas matched Jupiter's Hill radius with disturbing precision. A coincidence so exact, it felt orchestrated. A report was sent to the official orbit tracking systems. There was no reply. Days later, the non-gravitational acceleration values were quietly revised just enough to push the projected path barely outside the capture zone. The timing was immaculate. The silence afterward was deafening. If this already feels wrong, that's the point. Don't let this get buried. Tap like right now. And subscribe, because what's coming next makes this look harmless. Drop your theory below before the truth shifts again. You can change numbers on paper. You cannot change gravity. When 3I Atlas reaches Jupiter, its true distance will expose reality in a way no model can disguise. If it slips inside the Hill radius, the official narrative collapses instantly. If it doesn't, the deeper question still burns. Why did it aim so precisely for that invisible boundary at all? Because natural objects do not target gravitational keyholes. Paths like that are chosen. Now the implications turn darker. The anti-tail implies sustained thrust. The mass budget suggests non-thermal exhaust. The jet geometry suggests a fixed emitter. The brightness modulation suggests internal control. Every anomaly points toward engineering where randomness should dominate. Yet the public is repeatedly told to remain calm, to trust the models, to ignore the growing pile of contradictions. Meanwhile, 3I Atlas is drawing closer, closer to Earth, closer to sensitive orbital corridors, closer to regions of space that are never casually approached. Every day the countdown shrinks. Every day the images sharpen. Every day the contradictions grow heavier. And still, no straight answers are given. What if the anti-tail is not a tail at all, but an exhaust plume angled sunward to counter radiation pressure? What if the delayed acceleration at perihelion was not a reaction, but a maneuver? What if the mass loss is not erosion, but fuel consumption? What if the observed rotation is not chaotic spin, but deliberate orientation? These are the questions institutions are trained not to ask, because once you admit propulsion, you admit intent. And once you admit intent, you admit a navigator. The most overlooked detail of all is the trajectory itself. 3I Atlas passes near multiple gravitational hubs in sequence: Earth, Mars, Jupiter, a sweeping scan of the inner solar system, exactly the pattern a reconnaissance probe would follow. And probes have origins, builders, objectives. If 3I Atlas is artificial, something beyond our sun launched it long before humanity ever learned to leave its own cradle. Something calculated its arrival centuries ago. Something aimed it toward the most valuable gravitational corridors of our system. And now it is here. Official statements insist all revisions are normal, that uncertainty is routine, that comets surprise us all the time. But comets do not maintain sunward jets 1,000,000 kilometers long. Comets do not glide like rigid projectiles for months. And comets do not remain intact after losing massive fractions of their mass in weeks. Yet this one does. As the final days count down, pressure inside the scientific world builds, not toward disclosure, but toward restraint, toward silence, toward preserving the appearance of normality for as long as possible. But space does not negotiate. Gravity does not accept public relations. Soon, 3I Atlas will cross the mathematical point of no denial. Its true acceleration will carve itself into orbital equations no one can censor. Its encounter with Jupiter will write truth in motion rather than speeches. And whichever version of reality survives that moment will permanently reshape what humanity believes about its place in the universe. Until then, we watch an object that should not exist behave exactly as though it was built to be here, as though it was following instructions, as though its journey did not begin with chance, but with design. And as 3I Atlas closes the final distance to Earth, one question grows heavier with every passing hour. Is this just another strange visitor, or the opening move of something that has been watching us far longer than we ever imagined?